Welcome, everybody. I'm Matilda Hofman, the music director of the Diablo Symphony Orchestra, and I'm delighted to welcome you this evening to our first Thursday concert. And the title of this concert is El Mariachi Meets the Symphony. I have three very special guests for you tonight. Robert Hamaker, one of the most long-standing members of the Diablo Symphony, is going to talk about his role in the symphony and some pieces that the percussion section has prepared for you. We have John Masko, who was a previous assistant conductor, who's now doing really exciting things in the virtual symphonic world. And most especially Esteban Zapiain from El Mariachi Alegre to talk about his connection between symphonic music and the mariachi in this concert. But before we start on that, our first piece tonight is going to be by Mexican composer Arturo Márquez, and it's his Danzón No. 2. It's very typical from a certain part of Mexico and the folklore there, but the origins of the dance actually come from Cuba, as I expect you will hear in all the rhythms that are going on. So have fun and enjoy the concert. So good evening again, everybody. Welcome to the next portion of our show tonight. And I'm delighted to welcome our special guest, Robert Hamaker, longtime member of the Diablo Symphony. Welcome.
Thank you, Matilda. Pleasure to be here.
So Robert, just to start off, why don't you just tell us about a few of your different roles in the Diablo Symphony and the role it has had in your life as well over the years?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this a long time. I'm officially now the stage manager, equipment manager, and also personnel manager. That all started way back in 1983, 84. And my first job there was just equipment manager.
Okay.
And that was pretty much when I got out of college. They offered me a position to play with them and then take care of their setup and stuff.
Nice.
And then Wendy Colton Scott, who was a bass player with the orchestra, who was the personnel manager, she retired from that position around 1985, I think. So going back, I'm probably getting the years a little bit wrong, but
yeah.
And that's when I took over doing personnel manager.
Wow.
And been doing both of those then ever since for a long time. Yeah.
So you really, you know the scene, right?
Yeah. It's always changed. There's only the now. It's always changing. And so you're the third conductor I've worked under.
Okay. And
they say the best for last.
I'll go on. So that's over 30 years, right? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an amazing tradition that you carry with the.
Yeah. So, it's been great for my life. I do, I've always just done musical endeavors for my livelihood. But this has been a steadfast part of my work for most of my career. So thank you, Diablo Symphony. And it's been an honor to be part of such a large creative process.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people involved, right? When there's a symphony.
Yes.
Tell us a bit more about your role as a percussionist and also how you've been, keeping the percussion section connected recently.
Yeah, well, my training was in performance in percussion. I got my bachelor's in 1983 from Cal State, at that time Hayward, now it's Cal State East Bay, but had some great teachers there. I decided when I was about a junior in high school that my career was going to be music. I wanted to do that. My mother was a musician, had a master's in composition, actually, and she was a piano teacher. so I had, some support in the family for taking on such an ambitious livelihood. Scares most people, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But so and I decided when I was just a kid that I was percussion. Actually, just a fun story. I actually started out, my first choice of an instrument was French horn.
Okay.
Fifth grade when you could take band for the first time. So they had, my brother was a musician. He actually started as a music major, ended up as a computer major.
Mm-hmm.
And he played French horn, trumpet, drums, I don't know what else, a few others. So I had the instruments from him around the house.
Okay.
And so I picked French horn, and that lasted 2 weeks of carrying the French horn because I had to walk to school.
Okay.
And so I looked around, I think at that time, and I said, well, the drummers, they just come with a pair of sticks. I think drums would be cool. So now what am I stuck carrying around?
A whole truckload of percussion.
Yeah,
right?
That didn't quite work out the way I thought.
That's fun. That's so funny.
But yeah, so that, percussion, going through school, I always played drum set. And then when I got into college, you had to learn the other percussion families, the mallet instruments, pitch percussion, timpani, and all the various multiple instruments you have to learn as a percussionist in orchestral and band.
Yeah.
And then when I got out, I taught privately the whole time from when I was in college, and I've taught my whole life, since. That's probably half of my livelihood. And then just always I got involved with different symphonies and dance bands, and just kind of a hodgepodge of different kinds of music, and that's what I've been doing. So, and orchestral has been a pretty big part, shows and orchestral work, probably for the last 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, such a multifaceted life.
Yeah. Well, to make a living at it, it's my thing. I took the advice of one of my teachers. He said, you may not want to be a timpanist, but you better learn it, because, you don't want to be sitting home Friday night and somebody calls you for a gig and you say, I can't play that.
Right.
So, so that was kind of the approach, and it's worked well. I mean, I can do a lot of different things in the percussion family. I can cover all kinds of music. So, and I enjoy it all. Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Robert, about the trio that you have now with the Diablo Symphony Percussion, and particularly the pieces that you're going to be.
Yeah. Well, when you've been working on these first Thursdays for the symphony, which has been great, and you'd mentioned you thought one of them you wanted to do the Latin American mariachi concert.
Yeah.
So marimba is kind of the classic. I think it's Guatemala. Marimba is actually the national instrument there. And so that, when you think of Latin American music, marimba might come to mind. So I've been doing percussion ensembles most of my career also, and I have a large library of music. So the main three percussionists in Diablo Symphony, myself and Teresa Sert and Carl Cottrell, have been getting together pretty much the same as the strings, and some of the time when the winds would get together outside on Mondays, I would go set that up and then run over here and we would rehearse just to do something, because we all miss playing live. And then it came up for the auction they had in September, the online auction. And actually, Jessica, our board president, had the idea of auctioning off us playing for somebody in their backyard. So then we started rehearsing pieces. And these are the pieces that I picked here are of the Latin feel, but they were from that project where we played about an hour's worth of music in somebody's backyard for them. Actually, I'll just say quickly, that worked out interesting because it was the choir of a former orchestra member, Bunny Parrott, who passed away in September, that got together and bid on that and won it to have us come play in her honor.
That's a beautiful connection.
Yeah, so that was kind of special. So anyway, I picked two Mexican sort of folk tunes, Chilito Lindo and La Española, kind of combine those two for one piece. And that's all on mallets. So I was playing marimba, and Teresa was playing marimba, and Carl was playing guitar. He's also plays guitar. And actually, Teresa I only have one marimba in my studio, so she's playing it on what we call a mallet cat, which is electronic, but it had the marimba sound. And then we did the first movement of a piece by Ney Rosauro, who's a Brazilian percussionist and composer, and called Señas Brasileiras para Concerto de Percussão. And I'm sure I didn't say that very well, but we just did the bio, which is a dance form. This is 2 dance forms. And again, that was for marimba. Teresa was playing marimba, I was playing vibraphone, and Carl was playing the xylophone part, which is kind of the solo part or the lead voice. And then there's a piece that was not really Latin American, but it made me think of the flamenco style. If you've seen flamenco dancing, where they clap. And it's just a piece called Piece for 3 pair of hands clapping. So there was just the 3 of us doing that. So those are the 3 pieces I recorded us doing. So
great.
It should be fun, I hope, for people to see.
Yeah, it's such a treat. So thank you so much for being with us this evening, Robert. And
yeah, it's my pleasure.
Look forward to hearing your treatment now.
And just for my work with Diablo Symphony, thank you so much for everything you do, Matilda. You're wonderful.
Oh, I return the compliment.
Yeah. Thank you.
So welcome the percussion section of the Diablo Symphony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2, 1, 2.
So welcome back, everybody. For this next piece you're about to hear, Villa-Lobos's Bachianas Brasileiras number 4. We have one movement of this to share with you, conducted by my guest here with us tonight, John Masko. Welcome, John.
Thanks, good to be here.
So at the time we performed this concert, John was our assistant conductor. He was an assistant conductor with the Diablo Symphony for a couple of years. So it's really nice to have this chance to reconnect. Tell us about your experience in California and with the Diablo Symphony.
Sure. I'm not from California. I was from New England originally and live back here now. I came out to do my master's in conducting at the San Francisco Conservatory. So I was there for 2 years from, I guess, 2016 to 2018. And I came to the Diablo Symphony pretty much by accident. You know, I've always felt that as a conductor, there's no experience more valuable for improving and strengthening your musicianship skills than working with community or amateur orchestras. So when I was set to come out to California, I just started blanket emailing everybody I could find who had a community orchestra in the San Francisco area, and it just happened to work out with the DSO. And I spent 2 years as the assistant conductor there, and I would say that I hit the jackpot as far as the amateur orchestra that I ended up working with. It's an incredibly warm, close-knit community of musicians that Matilda has really in a very nice way whipped into shape over several years. And it's a group of amateur musicians who really think in many ways like professional musicians, and that made it a very valuable experience for me. And it also Matilda being a string player herself, I often found myself leading the wind and brass sectionals in the orchestra, and that was also a sort of singularly valuable part of the experience. That because actually a surprising number of orchestras are led by string players, and you can, as a conductor, get quite far by having some experience and knowing really well how to get the best out of wind and brass players. You'll always be useful. Yeah, I greatly enjoyed my couple of years working with the DSO, and I miss them now.
Yeah, well, we miss you too, John, and then I know everyone had a lot of fun working with you. So your life has moved on, and the world has changed since you last conducted the Diablo Symphony. I know your special project since the pandemic hit, and even from before the pandemic hit, something that you've been passionate about is working with musicians who are also in the medical profession, right? John now has a national virtual medical orchestra that's been doing amazing things, supporting the medical community during this time. So John, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So I actually came from a medical family, not a musical family. I think my having interest in music was kind of a surprise to people. Often music runs in family. My family were music lovers, but doctors by profession. So I've always sort of had a dedication to exercising my musical passions while giving back something to the medical field. And back when I was in college, the first orchestra I ever got to conduct regularly was the Yale Medical Symphony Orchestra. And after I finished my master's degree in conducting in San Francisco in 2018, I returned back to New England, determined to help start my own medical orchestra, which turned into the Providence Medical Orchestra. And earlier last year in 2020, when that orchestra was shuttered like every other orchestra for COVID, we had the idea, or I and a colleague, Richard Logothetis from Boston, of starting a medical orchestra online that would use the best virtual performance practices to give medical musicians the musical outlet that they so desperately need during this most stressful period of their professional careers. So we ended up creating the National Virtual Medical Orchestra, and we started it out by finding all the in-person medical orchestras we could around the country and having their music directors nominate 3 or 4 players each. From 15 orchestras, you got yourself a symphony orchestra if you do that. Then over the last year, it's grown phenomenally, and we've even though it does have the medical focus, we've also maintained a focus on sort of stretching the limits of the virtual performance genre as much as we can. Back when the pandemic started and all these professional orchestras were putting out short virtual performances of the second movement of Dvorak's New World, or Nimrod from the Enigma Variations, or things. These are mostly fairly slow and easy pieces that are forgiving as far as the tempo. If someone does something slightly not when they're supposed to, it's not going to cause a disaster. And so we tried to, with our performances, do ever more challenging things for this remote genre. See if you can do the finale of the Berlioz Symphonie Fantastique completely remote. It turns out you can, and we did for around Halloween. And then actually this year, we had previously been doing performances using basically manipulated versions of past real performances as something for the musicians to listen to as they play to keep them together. And this year we decided we're going to throw that out completely, and we're going to be the backing track for ourselves, and we build up the orchestra layer by layer, and that's what we're doing now. But it's been a really wild ride, and it's been a fantastic opportunity to give back to the medical community in a time of need.
Yeah, and I imagine that, yeah, like you say, the outlet, I mean, the musical outlet is so vital. And if that's an important central part of your life, and then you're going into this very stressful work situation every day, it must be very special to have that that chance to feel like one's connected musically to other people again, right? So thank you for doing that, John, and check them out, the National Virtual Medical Orchestra. The piece that you're going to hear now is a piece that John conducted with us on our program a couple of years ago. It's by the Brazilian composer Villa-Lobos. It's like a Brazilian interpretation of Bach, right? Do you want to say something about the movement that you conducted?
Sure. Yeah, it's basically a series of manipulations gradually growing in complexity of a simple chorale melody in the style of something Bach might have written, and it's accompanied by we hear some tropical Brazilian bird calls in the xylophones and flute on top of it. It was it has a simultaneously majestic and lyrical quality to it that Villa-Lobos really made his own. So I hope you enjoy it. It was, as I recall, a fantastic performance.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it's a really atmospheric piece, and like you say, it's got this lapwing singing along to the Bach chorale all the way through. So it's this wonderful mixture of different colors, and it's very emotional. So thank you for your performance with us, and thanks for being here this evening, and good luck.
Thanks so much. Enjoy.
good evening, everybody, for the last time this evening. And this is our final act for our concert tonight. And I'm so delighted to welcome here Esteban Zapiain, who is the founder and vision behind El Mariachi Alegre. So welcome.
Well, thank you. You are so kind, and thank you for having me on behalf of the mariachi. Muchísimas gracias.
De nada. We had such fun at this concert. It was a real treat, and the audience went crazy. So before we get into the music, I'd just love to hear a little bit about background about your musical journey and the journey of El Mariachi Alegre, if you would.
Well, I was thinking about that this evening, and it occurred to me as I was sitting in the other room that 60 years ago, probably close to this time of the year, I played my first violin solo.
Wow.
And it was nothing that was any great shakes. I played probably a 16-bar arrangement of Turkey in the Straw for my school at an assembly. And I loved it so much. There was no turning back. They applauded. I loved it. I'm in.
That was the moment.
That was the moment. But before that, I do have to say that we had these song flutes, flutophones or whatever. They're not recorders, but song flutes. And our music director chose me and several other people to take us to a performance of our local symphony orchestra. At that time, it was called the Kern Philharmonic. Now it's known as the Bakersfield Symphony Orchestra. And we sat way up in the auditorium, and I had never been to a symphony performance. I had never been to an auditorium. And they played, I'll never forget, they played Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, or sections of it. They didn't play the whole symphony. It was a children's concert. And when they played that piece, I was just transfixed. And I saw the players, and I was struck and dumbstruck, really,
Wow.
and thought, I need to learn how to do that.
Wow.
So
That's
all of these things start, well, I don't know that they always start, but for me, it started as a young person. And it was a love that just has grown over time. As far as Mariachi Alegre goes, we began playing together, several of us, Joe and Oli, who are our principal singers, in 1970. And we were not Mariachi Alegre then. We had been recruited by a very famous mariachi teacher, Mark Fogelquist, to play with the group that would eventually play with the Ballet Folklórico de Los Lupeños de San Jose. And this was the beginning of both the mariachi and the Ballet Folklórico. And one of my big takeaways from that moment was we played a Christmas concert. There were very many traditional songs, traditional dances. My grandmother, my mother, my father, uncles, aunts, cousins, all came to this concert in San Jose. We played all these wonderful songs. I had played, the previous year, I had played the first movement of the Wieniawski Violin Concerto with the local high school orchestra. We were a very good orchestra, and we did a credible performance. And the same people were at that concert. And after the concert, they shook my hand politely and said, "Nice job." After the mariachi concert, my grandmother had tears in her eyes. She hugged me so forcefully. My father, my mother, everybody. You'd have thought that I don't know, won the Nobel Prize or something. And so the mariachi had that sort of beginning, and it was a connection to the community and to our families that is pretty much unlike anything else I'd experienced as a musician with my family.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Wieniawski Violin Concerto among other violin concertos, but I'm not sure that my mother or my grandmother would have said, "We love it too."
So you had these two sides of your own musical life that have interwoven throughout your own musical career, and both are, I think, for you maybe equally important. Is that true?
Oh, I think it's without question. I don't know what anybody else's story is. And when I've asked my fellow musicians, how did you choose your instrument? the frequent answer is, I didn't choose it. It chose me.
Yeah.
I didn't choose mariachi. It really chose me. Yes, I'm a decent violin player. I tell people I'm a journeyman musician. I'm not an artist. I mean, maybe you are, and maybe some other people I play with have been and are artists, but I can do a great job. But I don't have that spark that I see, like with all those people that we all know. Itzhak Perlman, you know, I don't play like that. I can't.
Well,
In my dreams, I don't play that way.
Different type of artists.
Yes, different type of artist. But what I can do is the sort of thing that we do. I'm entertaining, and my group can play the right notes. Years ago, I had a group of students that were all adults, many of them doctors, many of them lawyers, and they wanted to learn about mariachi music. And so I took the instruments. I had a guitarrón and I had other instruments. And one of the violinists that was interested said to me, well, you know, I'm not sure I can play mariachi music. I don't play out of tune. And I just laughed.
Okay.
And I said, well, I don't know where you've heard mariachi music, but good mariachi players are like good musicians everywhere. We play in tune and on time.
That's an interesting story. Yeah. Steve, for you in this concert, you brought these two threads together, right? I mean, it was a moment where you could bring your compositional side and your mariachi side together to connect with the symphony orchestra. And you wrote these pieces, you made these arrangements yourself.
Yes, I did. It was really a wonderful experience for me. It was so satisfying. I've told you, and I've told other people in the past, it is certainly one of the high points of my musical career. I was, number one, able to write something for a symphony orchestra. How many people have written anything that has been performed publicly for a symphony orchestra? There's a few of us that I know personally, and of course, all the great masters, and I'm not one of those people either, but it was a dream come true for me to be able to, number one, perform on a concert stage. I remember as I was getting more accomplished in my playing, and before I played the Wieniawski violin concerto, I was 17, 18, whatever, I thought, boy, I would love to play on a concert stage and tour the world playing my violin. Well, I have toured many parts playing my violin, either as a member of a mariachi or chamber orchestra or different groups. And I played on some of the greatest stages in the world. Here in the Bay Area, I mean, I played at Zellerbach with our mariachi. 10 years ago, we played at Zellerbach. We played at Yerba Buena Gardens with my symphony playing. I've played with, as a musician, you know, the freeway, what do they call us? The freeway
Philharmonic.
Yeah, the Freeway Philharmonic. I played at the War Memorial Opera House and many venues. But the point is that I did get to fulfill that need that I have to have other people play my music. Yeah. I've played other people's music a lot, and I haven't, again, had the opportunity, but maybe someday, I am, because of our situation with COVID now. I had COVID earlier this year and I had to be isolated. I wasn't in the hospital. I never had to be intubated, but they wanted me not to contact other people. So for about 6 weeks, I lived in 3 rooms of our house, the guest bedroom, guest bath, and my office. I have this computer set up there. Usually I have a keyboard, and I've been thinking of this string quartet for probably the better part of 50 years. And I finally sat down and put it on the computer. I was gonna say put it on paper, but actually you don't do it that way these days. And I've been able to share it with a few friends, and it's interesting. It's we'll see.
How wonderful that I mean, it's interesting, this pandemic and the isolation. It has brought us, I mean, it forces some of us into places, musical places as musicians, that we wouldn't otherwise have had the space maybe to have. So that's, in a way, is a sort of interesting blessing of this isolation, and I hope that we get to hear the fruits of it with your string quartet.
I'd be delighted, and I hope to share it with you soon. It reminds me of a saying we have in English. It is an ill wind that blows no good. In Spanish, the equivalent saying doesn't mean literally the same thing in the words, but it has the same expression as the outcome of something bad bringing good, which is no hay mal que por bien no venga, which literally means there is not a bad thing that hasn't come for some good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice way you expressed it with the Spanish, the translation of the Spanish there. Maybe these concerts are one of those, because we can share these concerts that we recorded a few years ago and now are putting online, and can share with a wider audience, people who wouldn't have been able to come to the concerts at the Leisure Center. And I get to reconnect with you and these wonderful musicians, and revisit these special times, but also share them and look forward to future musical dialogues and conversations. So.
As do we. I just want to say one more thing about our mariachi. I am not the oldest, nor am I the youngest member of the group, but I am 70. My mariachi is no longer performing. My mother is 91. Several of us have older parents, and several of us have lost our parents, and health concerns aside from COVID. If you're fortunate enough to be this old, doctors will find something. Behind me here is a little flag that says Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I am living with an illness called chronic myeloid leukemia, which is completely controlled with a pill that I take every day. But due to health concerns that we have, due to caring for older parents, at this time, my mariachi is no longer performing. But we did, with our group, share this moment. It's one of the high points that we all have enjoyed. And I'm so glad that you recorded it and we get to see it.
Well, thank you so much, Esteban, and thank you to the whole of the Mariachi Alegre. We had a wonderful time with you all, and I hope all the audience tonight enjoys it as much as we all did. Thank you.
Well, you're quite welcome, and I wish you every success in the world, and all of our colleagues at the Diablo Symphony. Un abrazo fuerte, which means a big hug.
Un abrazo. Thank you.
tanto tiempo disfrutamos este amor, nuestras almas se acercaron, tanto así que yo te guardo tu sabor, pero tú llevas también sabor a mí. No pretendo ser tu dueño, yo soy nada y ya no tengo vanidad de mi vida. Con lo bueno, yo tan pobre que otras cosas puedo dar. Bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame, bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte, perderte.
thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. If you did, please consider going to the Diablo Symphony website and donating to us. Everything makes such a difference in these times when we're not able to provide live concerts for you. I hope you enjoy connecting with us online, and we look forward to meeting again in person before too long. Thank you all and have a good night.